I go by Lou, although I'm not picky about what people call me. I'm Louis Potter, married to Ruby for 4 years now. We've chosen not to have kids yet because we value our freedom a bit too much. Maybe we'll change our minds, but probably not until we're well into our 30s. We both grew up in poor families, living just a few streets apart. But we didn't meet until we were 18 at a college recruitment event. Ruby excelled in college and became an accountant and credit controller. Meanwhile, I struggled academically and didn't even graduate. However, I have a strong work ethic and a talent for business. At 15, I started working as a cleaner in local stores and offices. By 18, I was managing 30 employees and had contracts with several big companies in town. Ruby was job hunting and I needed more staff. When she approached my table at the event, she handed me her resume and said, "I'm not looking for a cleaning job, but maybe you'd like my phone number." I called her before she even reached the next table and asked her out to dinner the next evening. 4 years later, we tied the knot. Thanks to the event, Ruby landed a job in the purchasing department of an engineering firm, starting from the bottom rung. After 8 years, she ascended to head both the purchasing and credit control departments. Consequently, we enjoyed a comfortable lifestyle on dual incomes without children. Meanwhile, my business flourished, becoming the city's largest office and store cleaning company after acquiring two competitors. Typically, cleaners and security guards are the first to notice unusual occurrences in offices, sparking conversation among staff. Around 4 months ago, while at my desk, my secretary informed me of a man waiting to see me in the reception area. She handed me his business card, which read, "Ross Evans, Private Detective." I instructed her to bring him in. Upon his arrival, I greeted Mr. Evans, offering a handshake, and inquired about his purpose. After exchanging pleasantries, he took a seat, smiling. "Before we dive in, could I snag some coffee? I haven't had a drop all day and I'm dying for a cup," he requested. I empathized completely. It seems like caffeine is a lifeline for most business owners. My secretary didn't need a second invitation. She fetched 2 mugs from the office coffee machine with milk and sugar already on the table, but neither of us reached for them. After some initial chit-chat, I steered the conversation to the matter at hand. "So, Ross, how can I assist you efficiently?" He wasted no time getting to the point. "Please, just call me Ross. As you can see from my card, I'm a private investigator working for a client who suspects his wife may be having an affair or is on the brink of one. Our client's wife is employed as an accountant at Stevens Piping, a company with AM Metals as one of its main suppliers. AM Metals recently hired a new salesman, Alistair Clark. Clark is known for pursuing married women. He's been wining and dining my client's wife, sending flowers, late-night texts, the works. It's all very typical until now. But now he's pushing for an overnight rendezvous. We've gathered quite a bit of information, but we need to fill in the final gaps." I found myself intrigued. The whole spy scenario is pretty amusing, but the name AM Metals rings a bell. Ruby's company also sources materials from them, and this Clark character sounds like someone I'd rather keep Ruby away from. I glanced up and caught Ross looking at me, evidently awaiting a response, so I queried, "I get the gist, but how can I assist?" He grinned. "I was hoping you'd ask. It's simple. Clark leaves flowers, notes, and other items on her desk. She reads them and tosses them in the trash. Your staff handles the trash. They can collect anything personal from him and pass it on to us. We'll vet it through our legal team. Gathering personal items poses no legal issue. We've also cleared it with her employer. Here's the authorization to gather information. By cooperating, they sidestep potential legal trouble stemming from violating her contract's fraternization clause. If you're wondering why they agreed, here's the CEO's card. Give him a call to confirm." The CEO's number was already in my phone. Without a word to Ross, I dialed. He picked up on the second ring and without preamble stated, "Lou, I understand Ross Evans is with you. I authorize you to receive and transmit any non-company related information to him or his team. Our lawyer is drafting a formal letter, which we'll email you. I've got to go, he's waiting in my office. But ring me if you need anything else." With that, he hung up before I could speak. Clearly they wanted this sorted pronto. Ross smiled at me. I simply nodded and remarked, "He confirmed what you said. Give me all the details and we'll start collecting her trash in a separate bag. I'll sort through it here and you can pick it up every morning at 11. Does that work for you?" Ross affirmed, "It's perfect." I then phoned the designated crew leader, and Ross directed us on what to search for. Early lunches, late lunches, flowers, notes, and so on. We collaborated with Ross for roughly 6 weeks. At the end of this period, he declared the investigation concluded. One of my employees observed that the subject didn't return after lunch. We contacted Ross and informed him. He trailed them to a motel. Subsequently, the marriage ended in divorce. Work and family life resumed as usual until one day Ruby seemed a bit troubled. I attempted to inquire, but she remained tight-lipped. About a week later, Donna, a seasoned employee who had been with me almost since the beginning, entered my office. Donna was a valued employee whom I considered a friend. Being 25 years my senior, she treated me like a son. As she settled into a chair, I sensed something was amiss. Then she began, "Remember a few months back when we were involved in that surveillance at the office?" My interest piqued, I responded. How could I forget? It was quite an intriguing time. Why do you bring it up? I raised an eyebrow to convey my curiosity. Well, she paused. As you're aware, I now work in the same office as your wife, and the man we were monitoring is now visiting her office. I noticed a sizable bouquet of flowers, and she took them with her to lunch. Here's the card that accompanied the flowers. She handed me the card, and I read it. Dear Ruby, thank you for assisting me in renewing my contract with your company. I cannot express how grateful I am to you. I hope you'll join me for lunch so we can catch up. With love, Alistair. My blood ran cold. The language on the card strongly implied that this wasn't their first personal interaction, and their relationship was dangerously close to crossing marital boundaries. I recalled from Ross that this individual was persistent and successful in pursuing married women, and my wife was now a target. Thanking Donna, I requested she keep a close watch and provide me with daily updates. If any further notes surfaced, I asked her to bring them to me immediately upon discovery. Without hesitation, I picked up the phone and dialed Ross's number. He picked up on the third ring. Hello, Lou. How can I assist you? I wasted no time, relaying Donna's report. A staffer just briefed me. She used to handle nightly cleanup during your investigation. Once it wrapped up, we reassigned her. Now she's in my wife's office. Donna informed me that the same Mr. Clark is now making moves on my wife, even taking her out to lunch. I've got a card with flowers from him, indicating his intentions. Ross took a deep breath. Our inquiry into Mr. Clark is ongoing. You're actually the third husband involved presently. The distinction lies in the fact that the other two weren't initially aware of his identity. They've agreed to share expenses. Would you like to join them? I promptly responded, Absolutely. What's the next step? Ross suggested meeting with the other husbands at 2 p.m. and proposed, Could you swing by my office to meet, fill out necessary paperwork, and exchange information? I agreed to arrive precisely at 1:55 p.m. In Ross's office, I found Dan McWilliams and Johnny Ashley, along with Ross and his associate Mike Pearson, who was gathering data on the case. Ross commenced the meeting stating, Gentlemen, we're here because you three share a common predicament. Dan, Johnny, meet Lou. He's interested in joining your investigation. If you're amenable, we'll register him as a client and facilitate information exchange. They glanced at me, then at Ross, and responded, Yes, that sounds good. The paperwork consumed approximately 15 minutes. Following that, I used my personal credit card to front the $5,000. Since Ruby wouldn't receive a statement for this transaction, Ross proceeded, addressing Dan, Johnny, and me. Our shared issue revolves around Mr. Alistair Clark. Lou, just to fill you in, Dan's wife works alongside Mr. Clark at AM Metals, while Johnny's wife is employed by the school board, which sources metals for tech classes in schools. Mr. Clark follows a well-rehearsed routine. He pursues women at their workplace with flowers, messages, lunches, and often attempts to lure them to a motel after lunch. He employs the same tactics with married women, pressuring those with children into infidelity and coercing childless women to request free passes from their husbands. He seems to derive pleasure from husbands knowing he's captured their wives' affection. He arranges weekend getaways only to abandon them later. Over the past year, we've documented at least 5 divorces in our area attributable to him. Further investigation revealed his previous employment in Dallas, where he was terminated after being sued by 7 husbands in a class action lawsuit spanning 3 years for alienation of affection. This man is despicable. Ross paused to take another sip of coffee. Lou, are you assigned to clean at AM Metals or the school district office? As per our last check, if you collect trash from your wife's bin, You're free to use its contents unless there's a confidentiality agreement in your contract with the company you're cleaning for. I shook my head. No, we aren't. Neither was my response, Ross acknowledged. That's unfortunate. Nonetheless, continue gathering garbage from your wife's bin. Who covers your wife's phone bill? I replied. My business does. Ross grinned and inquired. What's her phone number? Samsung, I stated matter-of-factly. Great. Please complete this form granting us permission to retrieve data from her phone. He then handed me a paper with a QR code and added, Scan this code on her phone. It'll direct you to our server. Use the provided username and password, and a program will be installed on her device, transmitting all calls, messages, emails, and WhatsApp chats to us. We're aware he typically uses a mobile phone to avoid accidental answers from spouses on home lines. The meeting concluded with Dan, Johnny, and me swapping phone numbers and establishing a WhatsApp group including Ross and Mike for easy information exchange. Upon returning home, Ruby was already there, visibly preoccupied, clutching her phone closely and appearing distant during our conversation. She left to feed the dog, taking her phone, an unusual behavior. When I inquired about her day, she mentioned feeling tired after an odd day and retired to bed at 9:32, much earlier than usual. I stayed awake until our regular bedtime, then searched for her phone. It wasn't in its usual spot, so I headed to our bedroom. I noticed a telephone cord near the bed, and upon closer inspection, found it beneath her pillow. Retrieving it without waking her was impossible, so I retired to bed, troubled by the situation. Fortunately, she rose in the middle of the night, allowing me to swiftly scan the QR code, input the details, and return her phone unnoticed. Before her departure the following morning, she aimlessly roamed the house until leaving for work. Had I not engaged her, she wouldn't have divulged anything. Around 11:30 a.m., Mike phoned from Ross's office. They had completed analyzing the initial data dump, and he began to elucidate. She established a new email account, seemingly exclusively for his use. Conveniently, this aids our investigation. Initially unaware of his means of communication, we're now endeavoring to hack into his email. His correspondences are aggressively persuasive. He coerced her into discussing how you were her first and only, insinuating she needed to explore new experiences to invigorate the marriage. She shared lovemaking details of your life, which he absorbed and weaponized to his advantage. He hinted at spicing up your bed life and likely proposed a weekend rendezvous during their recent lunch. He's now asserting it's merely physical, and insists if she truly loves you, it won't constitute infidelity, leveraging guilt to manipulate her. I discussed her behavior last night, noting she appeared consumed by these thoughts. She didn't even acknowledge my presence last night or this morning, I inquired. Are they still in contact or planning another lunch? Mike reviewed the messages and relayed the latest one. Just received. Let's meet for lunch at the beach club tomorrow and strategize. Liu loves you, and if you tell him, it won't be considered cheating, and he can't deny you a free pass. Her response was simply, okay. After wrapping up my discussion with Mike, I leaned back, contemplating my next move. Talking to her directly won't suffice. He'll persist, perhaps even resorting to taking her to a motel for a rendezvous. No, I have to put an end to this, or to our marriage. I dialed Ross, exchanging pleasantries before getting to the point. It seems he's making a direct move on Ruby and flaunting it in my face. Even if I intervene, he'll find another tactic, maybe arranging a motel excursion. I need a plan to nip this in the bud. I'm considering filing for divorce. I also think I need a backup plan, though I haven't figured out what it entails yet. What do you think? After a brief pause, Ross responded, Having a backup plan is wise, but if it fails, he won't relent. I'm familiar with his type, and his ego won't let her slip away. So if forgiveness isn't an option, divorce may be inevitable. I'll prepare a packet of documents for your attorney at some point, or I can recommend mine. I have my own, thanks, I confirmed. He drafted a business agreement protected by a trust in case of divorce. I contacted my lawyer and scheduled a meeting for the next day at 9:30. Upon arriving at his office in the morning, he scrutinized me. Damn it, who changed it? I chuckled. He knew me too well. Taking the cup of coffee his secretary provided, I began, Ruby is on the verge of betraying me. A salesman at her workplace has set his sights on her. She's taken the bait, and now I see no other recourse. I'm devising a backup plan to halt everything. But if she cheats, plan A goes out the window. We spent the ensuing hour exploring potential courses of action. I favored a straightforward divorce. Our business, safeguarded by the agreement, would be divided evenly. and there were no children, thus eliminating the need for child support. The house would be sold. I had no intention of pursuing legal action against Clark, his employer, or her employer. Too costly with slim chances of success. We sealed our agreement with a handshake. After settling the fee, I departed. He mentioned finalizing all documents and storing them in the archives for future reference. Ruby's demeanor fluctuated throughout the week. One evening she showed affection, while the next she barely acknowledged his presence. On Friday afternoon, Donna called to share that Ruby had received a sizable bouquet of flowers along with a postcard. That settled it for him, and he asked for my opinion. While composing a message in the WhatsApp group, I noticed Ross's post to Dan, inviting her to dinner at the Holiday Inn. We were aware of his intentions, yet the matter remained unresolved. Urgently, I encouraged Dan to join me, hopeful that he would achieve his objective soon. I longed for a similar resolution in my own situation. I was so preoccupied that I kept dropping things. I messaged the group, informing Mike about the flowers and the message on the card. His response was prompt. I'll check her email now. Nothing so far. 5 minutes later, my phone rang, and without disconnecting, Mike directed me to check my WhatsApp. Opening the app, I found a document he had sent. It was a confirmation for a hotel reservation at a lakeside spot, approximately 30 miles from the city. The booking was for a double room for the upcoming Friday and Saturday, listing two names, Clark and Ruby. Returning to the call, I relayed the grim news. Mike sighed, confirming, yes, but the email is even worse. He proceeded to describe the contents as a cheater's guide, authored by Ruby, detailing what to say and do. He promised to forward it to me. As the email landed in my inbox, I read through a series of messages with the subject line, Weekend. It all began around 2 weeks ago when he sent her a link to the same hotel he eventually booked. In these exchanges, he expressed his desire to pamper her and suggested various forms of entertainment. Subsequent emails questioned her thoughts on the matter and lamented my supposed reluctance to fulfill her happiness. In the final message, he outlined the reservation details and provided a script of what to say and do to persuade me. It was essentially a manual for infidelity, advising her to cook a lavish dinner the following Thursday, engage in frequent closeness throughout the week, and assert that it would be purely physical with him, yet enriching. He appealed to her love for him, leaving the decision in her hands. It remained to be seen whether I would buy into it. I needed time to contemplate my next move. The weekend was filled with intense labor. I couldn't divulge my knowledge, but she showed remarkable kindness. We engaged in carnal activity on Friday night, Saturday morning, and Saturday night, continuing into Sunday. She initiated another encounter on Sunday afternoon, and we had a brief encounter on Monday morning. Ross phoned at 3 o'clock on Monday to relay concerning news regarding the email. He informed me that the situation was grim. According to Ross, she messaged Clark, offering a proposition for Thursday night. If Clark declined, she wouldn't proceed, but if he accepted, she would. Ross added that if Clark felt anxious, he should remember that seeking forgiveness is often easier than seeking permission. I expressed gratitude to Ross and requested him to compile a folder containing all relevant documents. He inquired about the presence of lovemaking photographs, to which I responded affirmatively. I could hear the shuffling of papers as he confirmed the availability of a photograph depicting them kissing, though not passionately. I instructed him to include everything in the folder, with the said photograph serving as the cover page, and to forward the entire package to my attorney. He assured me that he would comply. Following that, I contacted my lawyer, forewarning him about the impending folder delivery. We arranged for its presentation at the hotel on Saturday morning over breakfast. As I remarked to my lawyer, few things induce heartburn quite like a divorce petition. On Monday night, she desired closeness, but I declined, citing an important task to complete. I remained in my office attending to business, finally retiring to bed at 2 a.m. to find her already asleep. Despite the late hour, I slept deeply, awakening at 6 to head to work. Just before she could make advances, a courier delivered the awaited folder. Seated in my office, I perused its contents, noting a discernible seductive undertone. She possessed an unpredictable yet evidently effective allure. Ross provided accounts, albeit without names, of at least 7 marriages he had dismantled in the past 18 months. Additionally, a note from Dan detailed a distressing incident at the Holiday Inn involving his wife, Clark, and himself. Dan's wife fled in tears, prompting Ross to intervene and escort Dan home. The couple commenced counseling in an effort to salvage their marriage, especially considering their 3 young children. This interim solution provided them with a reprieve, particularly since Dan's wife had resigned, leaving Clark unemployed. As I immersed myself in the folder's contents, my secretary entered, her gaze unwavering. Overcome with emotion, I divulged the entirety of the situation. Upon hearing my account, she inquired about my plans. For the first time, a smile graced my lips, recognizing her not merely as a secretary, but as a friend offering support. I also noticed an aspect of her I hadn't previously observed, her undeniable allure. In response to her supportive gesture, she returned my smile. I instructed, "Prepare for divorce. If she departs with him on Friday, she'll file at the hotel on Saturday. No second chances. I've been trying to devise a plan B to halt her, but my mind's too foggy for ideas." My secretary, who I formally addressed as Miss Atwood, but who preferred Kathy, grinned mischievously and quoted, "What's good for the goose is good for the gander," she suggested. "Why not have your own weekend with your dream girl?" I couldn't resist smiling back, asking, "And who might that be?" Though I already knew the answer, she replied, "With me, of course. Your loyal secretary is urging you to clear your mind. It's strictly about physical release, unrelated to your marriage. Use this letter as a guide and send it to her before she does the same to you." The plan was simple, yet effective, compelling Ruby to face her betrayal. Tuesday night, I made love to my wife devoid of emotion. Tough to do. Wednesday morning, neither of us desired a quick encounter. By Wednesday evening, tensions eased slightly, but only slightly. Thursday morning, as I left the house, Ruby awoke, shouting about dinner, but I intentionally ignored her. Around noon, Ross called, informing me that Ruby messaged Clark, boasting about preparing a lavish dinner for me and promising to update him on our conversation. To preempt her, I headed to the store and purchased chicken, potatoes, and vegetables, all intended for baking, along with a bottle of her favorite white wine. By 2:30 I was back home, and within 2 hours, everything was prepared and in the oven. Just as I was placing the potatoes to bake, Ruby arrived with shopping bags, looking puzzled. "What are you up to?" she asked. I grinned broadly. "I'm simply preparing dinner for my dear wife. Wanted to make it special before we sit down for a chat." I noticed a perplexed expression on her face. Clearly taken aback, she responded, "Oh, I was going to cook dinner too. But after we eat, I have something important to discuss, so it's going to be a long night." "Of course," I replied, turning away with a smile. I had already made a significant contribution to her plans. Dinner proceeded tensely. I kept the conversation flowing, deflecting any attempts to shift the focus onto me, urging her to savor the meal before sharing my own news. Once we finished, I took the lead. "Bring your wine to the kitchen, we can talk there," I suggested. She followed. Earlier, I had discreetly placed a folder with a letter outlining her excuses on the kitchen table, concealed beneath a couple of magazines. Now, I removed the magazines, revealing only the printed document. "Ruby, you know I cherish you and would never intend injury," I began. "But we wed young, and my lack of experience became apparent. Lately, my new secretary, Miss Atwood, or Kathy as she prefers, has been confiding in me. Her tales are captivating. I could listen for hours. Now, I need to clear her from my mind before we commit to spending our lives together. I've arranged a hotel stay with her for the weekend. It'll be purely physical, a chance for me to blow off steam and pick up some new techniques to try out with you later. It doesn't affect my love for you or our marriage. I'm telling you beforehand so it won't be seen as betrayal. I trust your love for me enough to allow me this one weekend outside of our marriage, knowing it won't impact us." Ruby's face flushed crimson, on the verge of exploding. She declared, "Over my dead body, and I want this woman gone by Monday morning or we're finished." Her reaction eased my tension, and I erupted into laughter, remarking on her expression. It was priceless. Then, realization hit her. Every response she planned to give me, I had already anticipated. I closed the folder and handed it to her, revealing a photo of her kissing Clark on the cover. Her complexion turned ashen as she whispered, "You knew and you played me." I smiled. "Yes, I did. Your reaction is exactly what mine would have been if roles were reversed. Unlike you, I didn't book a hotel for us. Unlike you, Miss Atwood and I never shared lunches, kisses, or conversations about love or closeness. My tale was purely fictional. Yours, however, is quite real. As I spoke, she flipped through the folder, realizing the extent of my knowledge. Dates, times, photographs, emails, transcripts of calls. Everything was laid bare. She was furious. You followed me. You violated my privacy. How could you? I remained composed. That's all there is to it. Time to take action or not. I love you, but you need to understand there's a boundary, and you're teetering on it. You got yourself a boyfriend, engaged in an emotional affair, and plan to make it physical. You've humiliated me and jeopardized our marriage in the process. And yet, you're angry at me for trying to intervene. I thought we could work through this, but maybe I'm mistaken, I responded, more sorrowful than angry. What do you mean by humiliating you and wrecking our marriage? I never intended anything like that. It was separate from our marriage. Obviously, she retorted, citing from the infidelity playbook. Why should this affect us? Listen to what you're saying. I echoed her words and then pointed out, you responded to me as if I said the same thing, over my dead body. So why is it acceptable for you to cheat, but not for me? She inhaled deeply as if preparing to speak. I raised my hand and interjected, there's no such thing as a free pass. If you go with Clark, it's cheating. Even if you inform me beforehand, it won't change the situation. She averted her gaze and murmured, I can't process this right now. I need to be alone. With those words, she rose abruptly and dashed upstairs, taking the folder with her. I heard the bedroom door shut and the lock engage. I tidied up the house and settled at the table. Ross had provided me with a tablet to access a server displaying all of Ruby's phone activity. I sat down and logged in. She was corresponding with Clark. As I examined her messages, I found her initial letter intriguing. She expressed concern about someone trailing them and having copies of their exchanges. When she got home, her partner had dinner prepared and seemed to know her thoughts, sparking anger within her. Later, he showed me a folder containing all the details, including the reservation. Unsure of what to do, Clark didn't see it as a problem. He suggested informing the other person that everything was booked and that they had to follow through, emphasizing their love and questioning the other person's feelings. His desperation was palpable. Trying to follow his advice, I faced resistance from my partner, who argued it would embarrass him and jeopardize our marriage. He insisted that even seeking his permission would be considered cheating. Feeling conflicted, I couldn't proceed. Despite the potential enjoyment of the weekend, I couldn't risk my future with Lou. Seeing his disappointment, I realized all his efforts and resources had been wasted, and he decided to take a significant risk. She was asked if she thought her husband would divorce her. She replied negatively, expressing doubt that he would find another woman like her. The suggestion was made for her to pack her bag and bring it to work to gauge his reaction. If that failed, they would proceed with the weekend plan, followed by seeking forgiveness on Sunday. Despite recognizing the nonsense, she fell for the suggestion. She concluded that if it seemed like her husband might leave her, she wouldn't proceed with the plan. She planned to see the person the next day. As she started thinking more rationally, he knew how to reassure her. I put away the tablet and started watching TV, though my mind was preoccupied with everything. The decision was made to file for divorce on Saturday, though there was contemplation about postponing it. However, once initiated, there would be no turning back. The decision was made to proceed with the filing the next day, with the intention to demonstrate seriousness in a different manner. I phoned my lawyer and disclosed everything in detail. Hey, I dropped the bomb on her. And Clark informed her that I'd forgive her. She's planning to pack her bag to see how I'll react. I don't want to file for divorce until they have slept together. Is there any way we can demonstrate how serious this is to her? My lawyer was sharp. He suggested we could provide her with a letter containing a preliminary claim. We'll simply assert that you're aware she's planning to engage in an illicit affair over the weekend, and if she proceeds, we'll initiate divorce proceedings Saturday morning at the hotel. I proposed expanding the text a bit and delivering it to her at her office, preferably with Clark present. What do you think? It'll serve as definitive proof that I mean business. She mentioned Clark would pick her up for lunch. I suggested handing her the letter around 11 o'clock, regardless of his presence. Her employer would understand the situation. He's traditional and won't approve of her actions. But what would really upset him is if a process server showed up and caused a scene. About an hour later, the lawyer sent me a draft of the letter, perfectly suited to the circumstances. It detailed all the pertinent information and made it clear that she would be served. On Saturday morning, I sent a response confirming my approval of the plan. I checked the tablet, but there were no further messages between Ruby and Clark. So, I retired for the night. I tried to open the bedroom door, assuming it would be locked, but found it unlocked instead. Upon entering, I saw Ruby lying in bed, seemingly expecting a romantic encounter. Her packed bag was positioned against the wall on her side of the bed, catching my attention. Noticing her decision, I commented that she seemed to have chosen a quick rendezvous with Clark over our marriage. Without waiting for a response, I left the room and headed towards the guest room. Despite her pleas as I walked away, I remained silent. Lying on the bed fully clothed, I realized the letters were the work of someone else, and not a true reflection of reality. However, seeing her bag packed for a rendezvous with another man stirred deep emotions and felt like a betrayal. I was overwhelmed by grief and a profound sense of loss, and tears streamed down my face throughout the night. The following morning, I heard Ruby descending the stairs. I retreated into our bedroom to shower and change clothes, only to realize my bag was no longer there. I wondered if she had taken it downstairs, unpacked it, and stowed it away. After showering, I caught a whiff of coffee and bacon, deducing the bag was downstairs. Entering the kitchen, I met her gaze, noting her nervous demeanor. My initial reaction was to encourage her, urging myself not to hold back. I suppose this lavish spread is an attempt to showcase the kind of wife you'll be if you choose to sleep with another man, but it won't sway me. If you go through with this, it's the end for us, I declared, deciding to lay it all out during our conversation. The lawyer and I agreed the divorce papers would be presented to you tomorrow morning at breakfast. Once delivered, there'll be no retracting them. There won't be forgiveness if you return home tonight. We'll commence counseling to rebuild trust and prevent a recurrence. If you leave with him, don't even consider returning. You're not welcome here. Turning to leave, she implored, "Please stay for breakfast. We need to discuss this." I faced her and replied, "We've already had that discussion. Your packed bag suggests persuasion, not dialogue. I won't be having breakfast here. It's time you learn to fend for yourself, if you choose to do so. I assume the bag's already in your car." She turned away, confirming my suspicions. Leaving the house in silence, at least she grasped the gravity of her actions. Upon reaching the office, Katie remarked, "You look terrible." I grinned, "And you look as stunning as ever." Before she could inquire further, I stated, "I have no clue how it went." When I presented her with Plan B, she flew into a rage. She insisted on terminating your employment, even going as far as saying, "Only over my dead body." Then, she took matters into her own hands. This morning, I packed my weekend bag. At 11, she'll receive a letter from me with a directive. Let's see if this rattles her. As I spoke, Katie brewed coffee. Handing me a cup, she remarked, "I hope she comes to her senses. Surely she can't be so foolish as to think this behavior is acceptable for her, but not for you." I offered a sad smile and settled at the table. The day was unproductive. Shortly after 11, my phone rang. It was Ruby. Through tears, her words were barely comprehensible. "Are you serious? Are you really going to divorce me?" Evidently, she had convinced herself I wouldn't follow through. Without hesitation, I replied, "If you betray me, it's a breach of our agreement. We both know it. You'd divorce me if I cheated, right?" Her answer was barely audible, but it was a firm yes. She coughed. "Will you come home to talk?" she pleaded. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, I stated simply before ending the call. I arrived home first, brewing coffee. The aroma of the bacon she had cooked earlier lingered in the air, so I opened the kitchen window before sitting down to eat. She arrived at the house 10 minutes later. I was already pouring coffee when she entered. Clutching an envelope from the lawyer in one hand and her weekend bag slung over her shoulder, she dropped her bag at the door and froze. I sensed she wanted to rush toward me, to embrace me, yet hesitated, uncertain if I would welcome it. Carrying the coffee to the table, I gestured for her to join me. My initial inquiry was straightforward. "So, are you still planning to go to the hotel?" "How can you even ask that after sending this?" she exclaimed. "Of course I'm not going. I love you. I want to be with you. I know you'd never allow it. So everything is canceled. Now, do we need to mend our marriage, or will I still be served?" she asked, taking her seat opposite me, chin lowered. Gazing at her, I reached across the table, lifting her chin to meet my eyes. "You'll only be served if you show up at the hotel. No hotel, no papers. However, our marriage has been greatly strained, so here's what needs to happen, I explained. First, you'll call Clark in my presence. I want to hear you inform him that everything is off. Then, you'll disable and delete your personal email for his sake. Afterward, you'll contact your boss, informing him of Clark's actions and requesting that he be barred from your office. Following this, we'll arrange for counseling. We must understand why you were drawn to this, why you thought I'd agree, and how we can rebuild trust, I concluded. Just as I finished, her phone rang. It was Clark. She put it on speaker, and I heard him inquire, "Where are you, Ruby?" "I'm waiting for you at the reception and can't wait any longer." She took a deep breath, exhaling slowly. "Alistair, I'm back home with Lou. Something he did shook me to my core. If I go with you, my marriage will be destroyed. I'm sorry. You're not worth it. That's why I'm not going," she explained. His rage was unparalleled. "You're a foolish cow. Do you know how much effort, time, and money I've invested in you? And now you're leaving. When the weakling behaves like an offended child, you're just a powerhouse. Screw you," he spat out before hanging up. For the first time, Ruby saw him for who he truly was, a slimeball. Deactivating and deleting the mailbox proved more challenging than anticipated, but it was accomplished within an hour. By the time we finished, her boss and the HR manager were at our door. HR manager Mervyn Woods began by saying, "Ruby, we're aware of what transpired today. To say we're displeased is an understatement. However, we're here to offer you a chance to retain your job. Now please tell me what happened." She took a tissue to dab her eye before speaking. "As you know, about 3 months ago, our account was assigned to a new AM Metals sales agent, Alistair Clark. Previously, I managed this account, and he used to come to me almost daily. Initially, I didn't notice, but he started flirting with me, complimenting my attire, hairstyle, and even my smile. Gradually, he began commenting on my physique, discussing my figure and appearance. I fell for it and started dressing more provocatively. He sent gifts like flowers and chocolates, then invited me to dinner. Foolishly, I accepted, and during the dinner, he delved into personal questions about my life, my husband, and eventually, my bed life. He began belittling my husband, claiming he was unworthy of me. It was a gradual process, wearing me down bit by bit. Then he proposed a weekend getaway, but luckily Lou intervened. He handed me a letter stating he was divorcing me, which snapped me out of it. I informed Alistair I wouldn't go, and that Lou and I were devising a plan to salvage our marriage. I intended to report the incident formally, so I'm grateful you're here." Woods glanced at the CEO, who nodded before addressing Ruby. "Well, Ruby, we appreciate your honesty. Yes, it was a significant error, and you're fortunate to retain your job. We have issues with the quality of AM Metals products, so we'll be closing his account. Consequently, Clark will be permanently removed from the office. Therefore, no further action will be taken against you. However, if anything similar happens again, you'll be dismissed. Is that clear?" Ruby nodded meekly. "Yes." They bid us farewell and departed. After their departure, we had lunch and then began searching for a consultant. Fortunately, locating one proved relatively simple. We placed a call and scheduled an appointment. The consultant agreed to meet with us the following day, which was Saturday. The time was set. Seated, we exchanged glances. After about 10 seconds, I approached Ruby, took her hand, and led her to bed. We made love. Later, we retired to bed and I drifted off to sleep with my head resting on her chest. I woke up around 5 a.m. and we shared a tender lovemaking moment, perhaps the first since she encountered Clark. The consultations proved fruitful. Ruby recognized that Clark had exploited her fear of our lives becoming dull and routine. She also realized that she had unwittingly provided him with the information he needed to manipulate her. As for myself, I came to understand that for him, it was all just a game, and I grew to appreciate the richness of our life together. We didn't require anyone else to guide us. The consultation spanned 3 months. 4 years later, we're still blissfully content. Additionally, Ruby is expecting our first child. As for Mr. Clark, he suffered a nasty fall at our local shopping center while descending the stairs to the parking lot. The circumstances surrounding the incident remain a mystery, but there were at least 5 husbands at the mall that day who harbored ill feelings towards him. Dressed uniformly in black attire and baseball caps, we gathered at the scene. We all shuffled seats, making it impossible to discern who was present at the table and who wasn't. Despite the police's attempts to separate us, none of us revealed any information. I'm certain one of us was responsible, I swear.